Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. So for the first time in my life, I have bought physical silver bullions. So for any of my silver stacker subscribers out there that are watching, I specifically bought a 1 ounce American silver bullion, and I also bought a 1 ounce Canadian maple leaf. Both of those coins are extremely beautiful. I can't wait to look at them every single night. The reason why I'm making this video is it's probably going to be a lot different from most silver and gold videos out there. Because yes, I do believe in the investment proposition of silver. I believe that this coin, because of the Federal Reserve printing so much money and quantitative easing, this coin can easily reach $50 per coin, $100 per coin, whatever. Yes, I do believe that, but I am investing in silver for a completely different reason. So a lot of gold and silver stackers out there, I believe, truly understand the value proposition of gold and silver. They don't just come in and buy these bullions and expect to be rich in 1 year, 2 years, because to be honest with you guys, after looking at the charts, it takes decades to even be rich from this asset class. So for them, they understand that the value of the dollar is decreasing over time. The value of a Mercedes-Benz, a BMW, is such a depreciating asset, where if you compare it to gold, it completely depreciates over time. So I believe that a lot of stackers out there, the true stackers, they truly understand the core fundamental reason why you would invest in gold and silver in the first place. So it is this exact same psychological fix that I'm looking for to help me fix this one problem that I have in my life, guys. And that is a shopping addiction. So yes, growing up, I've had, to be honest, a spending problem. If I were to categorize spending into two separate buckets, I would put it into two different categories. Number one, you have this bucket of people that spend money to impress other people. So they might buy a Louis Vuitton purse to show off to their friends, hey, look, I have a Louis Vuitton purse. And then number two, you have this bucket of people that spend money and have this sort of what I would call a collector's addiction. And for me, even though number one sort of kind of fits me, for me, I think I fit specifically in the bucket number two, which is the collector's addiction. So before we move on, guys, I would definitely appreciate it if you guys give me a thumbs up below and like my video. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. I spend a lot of time and a lot of energy editing and shooting this video, so I just greatly appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up below. And also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So growing up, my addiction to collecting something has really evolved over time. I remember back then when I was a kid, that addiction was towards Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'm not sure if you guys remember back in the day, Yu-Gi-Oh was really popular back in the day. So I would collect these Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So basically every time I would get an allowance, I would just try to go to Walmart and buy these cards and just collect them and just, show them around with all my friends. And then later on in high school, when I got a job and I started to get consistent paychecks, that addiction turned into upgrading stuff. So basically in high school, I got a car and I started to spend my paychecks. Each paycheck I would spend upgrading little things in my car, like whether that be a new muffler or a new stereo system or tinted windows. Basically every paycheck I would spend these little things, whatever I could do to upgrade my car. And then later on, as I grew up in college and towards my early days in corporate America, that addiction has turned into clothes, guys. So for me, for example, I might buy a suit that is colored navy blue. And if I really like that suit a lot, guys, I sort of have to physically and mentally stop myself from buying the blue version or the black version of that suit. If you see the pattern, guys, it's sort of this pattern where I just like to collect things. It's like a collection of series. If I were to buy a watch and it had 5 different series, knowing me and in the past, I would probably collect all 5 series of that watch. So it wasn't until I found out about the community called the Financial Independence Retire Early community that I truly understood the value of money. Basically, as I learned more about the community, I learned that investing in stocks, blue chip stocks, or real estate and things like that are much, much more valuable than buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards or suits or brand new clothes. Because these are things that will grow eventually over time, that will beat inflation and will one day hopefully get me into financial freedom. So there's this book that I read in college, and the book is called The Power of Habit. And this spending habit of mine really reminds me of this book, because the book talks about 3 different cues as you build your habit loop. So number 1, you have a cue. Number 2, you have a routine. And number 3, you have the reward. So for me, if you look at my examples back in the day, my cue would be my paycheck. So every paycheck that I would get, every allowance that I would buy the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Every paycheck that I would get, I would spend my money upgrading my car. Every paycheck that I would get, I would spend my money buying clothes. So to me, the paycheck would be the cue. The routine would be the actual buying of the stuff. So whether that be Yu-Gi-Oh cards or the suits. And then the reward is just the dopamine rush that I get, the neurotransmitter rush that I get in my brain, telling me that all the stuff that I'm doing is really amazing. So what happens if I just completely take out this habit out of my life? Then I start to get this thing called craving. So after reading the book back in college, I learned that it's really impossible to take out the cue and the reward. Really what you guys have to change is the routine. The cue stays the same and the reward stays the same. So what has to change is the routine. So I somehow have to substitute my addiction to buying clothes, to buying upgrades to my car. I have to substitute that with sort of a similar routine, but that routine has to give me sort of the similar reward of dopamine rush. So that is where investing in real physical silver bullion comes in to help me with that shopping addiction. Yes, you guys can argue that I can just buy a silver ETF or silver mining stock in Robinhood or M1 Finance. I can probably save a lot on cost. Because for many of you guys that are stacking silver out there, you guys are very familiar that stacking silver requires a premium. Meaning, for example, right now, the price of silver is a $19 spot price. I can't buy silver at $19 if I'm collecting real physical silver bullion. I have to spend $22, for example, per ounce of silver in order to get that silver bullion. So yes, for a stacker like me, a very small stacker like me, I don't plan to be an aggressive stacker, those people that are stacking hundreds of ounces of silver per month. That's not really the point of why I'm collecting silver. But yes, in the short term for me, I'm losing a lot of money on premiums. But for the sake of me fixing my shopping addiction, it is definitely worth it, guys. So for me, instead of buying those suits, those nice clothes, those nice watches that will depreciate over time, for me, I'd rather spend that routine buying real silver physical bullions regardless of the premiums, because I know that over time that investment will be worth it for me. This habit loop applies to any habit that you guys might have. You guys might have an addiction to sugar, you guys might have an addiction to sodas, whatever addiction you guys have, this habit loop applies to. So all I did was I changed the routine. I had the same cue and I have the same reward, the dopamine rush, but I just changed the routine. And in my case, the routine that I'm applying, which I believe is a very good routine, is stacking real physical silver bullions. Okay guys, so the next part of this video is why exactly am I investing in silver bullion? I could be collecting Rolex, for example, or maybe investment grade watches or baseball cards, or why not gold? So I'll save gold for last. But the reason why I'm not investing in things like baseball cards or collectible items or collectible whatever, art paintings or whatever, is because I am a student of macro investing. Now, I don't want to get into the rabbit hole of what exactly macro investing is, but as a student of macro investing, we essentially require 2 things. Number 1, we look at the total number of market participants, so how many people are buying, how many people are selling. And number 2, we look at volatility. So what is the price action of this asset class that I'm buying? So going back to buying investment grade watches and baseball cards, for example, the market participants in that field is very small. So let's say right now I'm collecting real silver, physical silver bullions. In the next 5-10 years, it's going to be very easy for me to offload that silver if I want the real physical cash. If I want to say buy a house or put a down payment for a house, for example. Whereas if I buy baseball cards, it's really hard for me to find a buyer of that baseball card. So right now, if I buy baseball cards or investment grade watches, the market participant in that field is very small. So it's going to take a lot more hard work for me to buy a buyer later, years down the road. So that is why I'm not investing in something like that, because the market participants in that field is extremely small and I don't want to waste my time in that field. I need something that is very liquid, like the silver market, where I can easily offload my silver years down the road with no problem. So number 2 is the volatility. I know volatility for you guys might sound bad, but for me as a macro investor, I love volatility. I don't mind if the price goes up 10x or the price goes down 50%. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Because as a macro investor, without volatility, you can never get these massive gains. So yes, volatility can be bad on the downside when the asset class goes down 80%, 50%, but it can be amazing when it goes up towards the upside. So for me, I love volatility. And silver is extremely volatile. So fortunately for me right now, the price of silver is roughly around $19 per ounce. So it has extreme volatility left towards the upside. And my downside risk is very small. So even if silver spot price were to retrace down to, let's say, $15 or $16 per ounce, that is no problem for me. That is a great opportunity for me to buy more silver. So as a macro investor, I love volatility. And investing in things like investment grade watches or baseball cards, they don't have a lot of volatility, guys. And it's very hard to really invest in something like that. So now let's answer the reason why I'm not investing in gold. Because if you guys think about it, gold and silver is in the same asset class, which is the precious metals asset class. So why am I picking silver now instead of gold? For many of you guys out there, gold is definitely safer. If you guys are trying to preserve your wealth, preserving your wealth in gold is definitely, over the long run, a much better idea than preserving your wealth in silver. But right now, I am only 27 years old, so I do have a case of why I am physically investing in silver right now instead of gold. So my first reason to answer that question is just the price of gold itself. So a 1/10 ounce of gold is much more expensive compared to 1 ounce of silver. Let's say a gold American Eagle is approaching $2,000. So not quite there, but approaching that. So a lot of you guys that want to invest in 1 ounce of gold or even a 10 ounce of gold will require a lot of money. Whereas investing into silver, 1 ounce of silver you can easily buy for, let's say, $22 at the coin spot level. Just the fact that gold is a much more expensive asset class, I just prefer to stick to silver because a lot of people describe silver out there as the poor man's gold, because I'm certainly not rich, guys. So I invest in silver because that is the poor man's gold. So the second thing that I want to point out to you guys is the gold to silver ratio. Now a lot of gold and silver bugs out there always point to this chart, the gold to silver ratio. So what is this chart? So I'm going to put this chart in the screen for you guys to take a look. So as you see here, the gray bars in this chart represents a recession. So basically in the chart, you see the dot-com bubble, which happened in the year 2000. And you also see the 2008 real estate market crash. And more recently, which is not reflected in the chart, you also see the COVID-19 crash, which happened in March of 2020. And we're still currently in that recession right now, the COVID-19 recession, the debt bubble recession. In the chart, as you can see, in every recession that happened since the dot-com bubble, silver always rallies. So the gold to silver ratio always rallies down to, let's say, the 40 to 60 range. So in the dot-com bubble, the gold to silver ratio rallied all the way down to the 50 range. And after the real estate crash, the gold to silver ratio rallied all the way to almost the 30 range. So right now we're in the COVID-19 recession. We're still in the middle of that. And speculatively speaking, I believe that the gold and silver ratio can at least rally at the 50 range. So the gold to silver ratio tells you how much gold you can buy with your ounces of silver. So for example, if the gold to silver ratio is high, it requires a lot of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. And essentially that tells you that the price of silver is undervalued. If the gold to silver ratio is very low, it takes less silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. So that tells you that the price of silver is overvalued. So right now we have a very high gold to silver ratio. In fact, back in March of 2020, this ratio spiked all the way to 125, which is extremely high for the gold to silver ratio. We've never seen a gold to silver ratio that high. A lot of speculators out there, a lot of silver bugs out there, we're speculating for this ratio to hit around 50 after the COVID-19 recession settles down. So currently right now, at the time of shooting this video, the gold to silver ratio is currently at 100. So a lot of investors out there are anticipating this gold to silver ratio to at least hit 50. So what that means for you guys is that right now when you buy silver, when you collect silver, when that gold to silver ratio hits 50, you essentially doubled your investment in terms of gold value. So I'll give you guys an example. Let's say I have 100 ounces of silver right now. So according to the gold to silver ratio, if I take my 100 ounces of silver at the local coin store, that local coin store will give me 1 ounce of gold at the current moment. And let's say years down the road, when the recession definitely settles down, then that gold to silver ratio might hit 50. So with that same investment, the same 100 ounces of silver, that will become 2 ounces of gold. So that is exactly why I'm investing in silver specifically over gold, because silver is definitely the more undervalued asset compared to gold. Yes, gold is the store of value over time. Over the last hundreds and thousands of years, gold has been a store of value. But in terms of a little bit of speculation and a little bit of a poor man's gold mentality, silver is my play right now. So currently right now, guys, that is exactly why I am investing in silver. Yes, it's a very, very small portion of my portfolio actually. If I were to put a number to it, it's about 1% of my portfolio. I do want to add to it, maybe get to about a 5% allocation into silver, but I'm slowly getting there. I'm not there yet, currently at 1%. But really the main reason why I'm doing this is to fix my shopping addiction. So lately I've been sort of living frugally. Many of you guys have seen my videos where I'm saving 80% of my income, 60% of my income, 50% of my income. So it's extremely hard for me just not to enjoy life a bit. And for me, enjoying life is collecting things. Hope you liked that video, and I'll see you guys at the next one.